All right, so this is Sailing Anarchy TV coming to you live from the Boston stopover. We are privileged to be with the Volvo Ocean Race CEO, Mr. Knut Frostad. This is the race's first stop to Boston. What were your expectations coming here, and how did the actual venue meet your expectations?
Well, my expectations were definitely exceeded. I guess my first reaction when we knew we were going to Boston was that I knew this is a town which has a lot of sport activities and local sport activities, so with the Red Sox and Celtics and all the big teams here. So I was curious to see whether we could actually get the locals interested in sailing, because although sailing is a big sport in the region, it's kind of never been a big sailing event in Boston. So I've been very pleased actually to see how big crowds we managed to drag down here in the weekends for the events, and so it has definitely been a positive experience. Definitely.
And now you're off to Galway next, which is another new stop in the race. The stopovers this time were pretty closely tied to teams that were entering events, correct?
Yeah. Well, yes, both yes.
And is it also true that the cities had to post a $5 million euro fee to host?
That's not true.
That's not true?
Well, the truth is that we have certainly quite a few cities that are paying a rights fee to host, and it will be in the future, but I can't say the exact number because that's confidential between us and the cities. But clearly that's one of the ways we are funding the event, to make the event better.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And now you have 81 potential cities lined up for the next race. Are you looking to make it more of a commercial entity and make this a profitable enterprise?
No, we're not looking at making it profitable as in making profits in cash. For us and for Volvo, the profit in this event comes from media coverage and the amount of people we manage to drag into the event, and the value the event has as a hospitality platform. So in that sense, we are looking at to build the event bigger, but every single cent we make in funding in this event is refueled straight back into the event. So it's not a profit center, it's clearly a cost center, and it's clearly an investment. So it's not. There's no plans to make this into a profit-making business.
Okay. So for teams that sign on for multiple races, it won't be like the Challenger Series in the America's Cup where there was revenue sharing amongst the teams going forward?
Maybe that could be a plan in long term, but it's not on the agenda at the moment. We clearly believe that our agenda is to build this event to be a much larger sport event in general, and that's going to take us quite a few years to get where we want to get. So we're very far from considering those kind of ideas, very far from that.
And looking forward to the next race, you had a great announcement here last week that moving to Alicante, and that we know there's one confirmed boat from Brazil with Lars Grael and 2 confirmed boats from Spain. Word on the dock is there's pretty much 7 challengers right now that look to be ready to go, in hopes of up to 12. Is that
well,
reasonable?
I mean, it's at this time of day, it's difficult to say exactly how many teams are going to be there, because there's certainly teams and sponsors with plans and ideas, but the final confirmation only comes when they go public and announce their intentions. So, having been in this game quite a few years, I'm cautious to not sort of spread the numbers, because I think that it's going to take some time, and we're still early. We are clearly trying to do everything more early than we've done before, and get the teams to commit earlier. But it's going to take some time before we know exactly how many teams we're going to have in the next race. But our ambition is to grow the event and to have more entries.
Can the race be commercially viable if it's constantly 6 boats or 7 boats, or do you really need to get up to a 10, 12 boat, 15 boat format?
Well, I think it works now. So I think it can be commercially viable with 7 teams. Or we had 8 when we started, we have 7 now, and I think that works. Ideally, I think we would like to have a couple more, definitely. But I think if you ask the sponsors of the boats we have, most of them are very happy. So I think it's commercially viable for them. I think from a sport point of view, in the sailing world, I think it looks better, definitely, if you have more boats.
Now, we've seen lots of French sailors floating around and sailing on the boats this week. Is France a market that you're specifically targeting for the next race?
When it comes to French sailing teams, definitely. I would really like to see a French boat or 2 in the next race, primarily because I think they have a lot of good sailors and good offshore sailors, and we want the Volvo Ocean Race to be the absolute ultimate race for offshore sailing with teams, and I think it's about time that the French guys get into this event and meet up with the sailors we have. So you could say that from our side, when it comes to the entries, we're definitely targeting and pushing very hard on getting the French teams into the race.
Now, as we look ahead through this race, as this race winds down, there's been quite a bit of positive support from the sailors for you and for the management that you have, and for what sounds like a very open door policy with the skippers and what can be improved in the next race. Many of the sailing spectators have said that this race is a bit boring because position reports come in all too often and no boats are willing to take a real strategic gamble in the race. Do you feel that this race is too boring in the generic sense?
I think that I can understand some of the criticism because things can tend sometimes to be too perfect. and I guess if you had a bigger spread among the fleet, not only in, I think, the course, but I think also in the professionalism and etc. with the teams, you would have more different stories. I don't think the route is, or sort of the strategy the teams are choosing is something that we should really influence. I think that the reason why they're sailing closer together is because they're all better. And very few of the teams, they make big mistakes, and sailing offshore is really about making mistakes. You know, you can sail the perfect route, but you can't do any better than the perfect route. And today they all have very good skills on board. They have the same information. And even if you look at the single-handed racing, like Vendée Globe, they all follow pretty much the same route there as well. The best sailors at least do. But if you happen to be far behind, you obviously are in a different weather system, and then the strategy will change. But I think that we are definitely working on changing what could be perceived as a kind of a corporate look on the Volvo Ocean Race. And that is a challenge for us. It's a challenge for us that the more professional, the better the sailors are, the more occupied they are about winning. And the less occupied they are about, telling stories to the public and showing their true personality. So I think that's a challenge any prime sport event will face. So, but we are working on it. I think we made some great steps forward with the media crew. I don't think we met all the expectations on that because clearly, although we're getting a lot more material and better footage to get the personalities out there, it's still a struggle when you have these competitive sailors who just want to win. And I'm pretty sure if you did the same thing in America's Cup, you put cameramen on board there, you wouldn't get them to cry on TV either.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up. Part of the criticism with the media crew members, since so many of them are sailors, and in one instance on Ericsson 4, the media crew member is a brother of the navigator. Do you think the media crew members are unwilling because they are so ingrained in the team to film some of the more human aspects? And would the race be better off with independent media crew members, or maybe media crew members that rotate from boat to boat, so that you don't get a close attachment between the media crew members and the boats themselves?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I mean, it's certainly a topic we will discuss a lot after this race, how we can improve on the role. I think we tried with having independent media crew members before, and we tried in the early stages of this process. And it turned out, to live on these boats and to actually stand the whole race in itself, you need to be a sailor. It's very hard to find a sort of journalist who's not having a sailing background to really be able to work on these boats. So that's a challenge we're facing. When it comes to the fact whether they are friends with the sailors or not, I also see a complete different view on that one, because I also seen footage from the past races where we had some really personal stuff, because when the sailors were filming themselves, they didn't mind shuffling the camera up in the face of some of their colleagues because they were sort of mates and friends, while the media crew now have to be more cautious because he's not really part of the crew and he's a media crew, but he's got to be more careful about his position maybe. So there's two sides of that story. We have definitely, our wish is definitely to make this more personal and to go get more of the personal material out there. But we see now, I don't know how much you've seen on the footage from the last legs, but we definitely got a lot more of that in the last leg than we did in the previous leg. So it's almost like the relationship between the media crew and the sailor is improving enough for them to trust and to let the media crew do what they want. So I think it's I'm not sure actually if the media crew members really are not filming what they want. I think it's more a fact of the sailors being a little bit careful about what they actually show. There's two sides of that story, and we have to work on it to make it better. But it's clearly a different environment in the Volvo Ocean Race than it is in the Vendée Globe, for example. It's a different kind of people and different mentality, and some of that we can improve and change on, but some of it will always be there as long as you want the best guys to race the race.
Now, when you look at the race route, are you happy with the new format?